Hi, my name's Walter. Thanks for joining me. So I want to talk a little bit about audio cables, and so this is a tutorial about audio cables, the first of perhaps a couple of tutorials. We're just going to really talk about the structure and function of these cables, right? So audio cables are often used in various different ways, especially to transport sound from one device to another. So sound will classically from, say, a microphone go into a mixing device, and it travels along an audio cable normally, and then it goes from the mixing device perhaps to an amplifying device, and then along once again an audio cable, then from the amplifying device into the speaker. So sometimes some of these components might be aggregated, so there might be an amplifier inside the speaker or an amplifier inside the mixing device. So in that case, of course, you don't need cables because it's already connected. Cables, however, carrying sound from devices like a microphone or like a small electronic gadget like a CD player, might have quite low voltage, and so it needs to be shielded, and quite often they use a kind of shielded cable which has a central signal cable and an outer earth cable, and the outer it sort of spirals around it as a shield. So, and we'll have a look at that next time. But here's an example of the kind of plug you might bump into that will give you, that has a shield. So the plug itself, you can see that has an outer shield, which are those the little metallic tabs, and the inner plug, which is the actual signal plug. So it has a signal and a shield, and it's connected to the signal cable and the shield cable inside. So they call this an RCA cable, or an RCA plug in this case. And it often comes in two different colors like this, a white one and a red one. So the white one, or sometimes they're black, the white or black one would be for the left-hand channel if it's from something like a CD player, and the red from the right-hand channel. So we use that convention so that you always know that it's wired around the right way, and signal that's meant for the right-hand speaker comes out the right-hand speaker. So red is always right. Now, so this is a RCA cable. It has RCAs on both ends, and so you might call this a double-ended RCA cable, a double-ended stereo RCA cable. Stereo because a stereo signal has a left and a right. Okay. This is probably the simplest and very ubiquitous kind of a cable. You can also get a cable like this, which has a single tiny little plug. This plug is 1/8 of an inch, or 3.5 millimeters if you're using metric. And this particular cable has a similar gizmo on both ends, and you might use that for argument's sake to plug your iPad into something which also takes a 3.5 millimeter input. Some mixers might have one, something like that. Also available are RCA ended cables, but with not necessarily RCA on the other end. So this one has a 3.5 millimeter or a 1/8 inch stereo plug on the other end. So the RCAs, and in this case a black and a red, so where the black is the left-hand channel and the red is the right-hand channel. They're also slightly different tabs, but they're still the trusty old RCAs, which have been around for yonks, and this 3.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch plug. So you can see there are actually 3 connectors on that plug. So there's the top one, and then the middle one, which are the 2 signal connectors, and I don't even know which is left and which is right. It probably doesn't matter so much. And then the bottom one, which is definitely ground. So or shield. So the bottom one is connected to the shield, and the top 2 are connected to signal. And you can also get sort of a similar plug, but twice as thick. So that's a 6.5 millimeter or 1/8 inch plug, and it's a 1/8 stereo plug. So in this case, this is a little adapter. So you can plug the 3.5 millimeter into the other one, get a slightly larger plug if your mixer doesn't take, or whatever whatever doesn't take. So I use this one, the RCA and 3.5 millimeter lead, to plug, say, my iPhone into the mixer. So that's that. So I want to talk a little bit about the actual lead called an XLR lead. Sometimes they just call it a microphone lead. It's a bit of a misnomer because they often do use this to ship sound around as well, like to speakers and such. So it's just really it's a generic lead, and it's a very sophisticated kind of lead. Let's have a closer look at the connector. So the connector there, you see there are three. This is the female end. So there are three sockets there, and in fact the entire case, the metallic case, is a shield connected to the earth, connected to the shield that runs around the outside. So similarly, they're a shielded cable, and inside there are two signal cables. So two signal cables running inside a shield. Why are they so amazing? So, well, there are some physical things. It's beautiful sort of technology. It clicks together. It's a nice, robust connection. You can stand on that, and whatever where an RCA would clearly be a little bit fragile, and were you to stand on one of those leads, you would pretty much have to kiss that lead goodbye. It would cease to be useful. This one will deal with that quite well, but even more so. So it positively locks. Let's just go click it into a microphone. So you can see it clicks into all kinds of stuff. So these XLR leads are kind of the standard, if you like. Why are they so good? So inside a mic, there are actually two signal output cables inside the back of the microphone. So one of them carries a straight signal as received. The other one, a little circuit, turns the signal upside down. So if you were to imagine two waveforms and you turn one of them upside down and sort of smash them back together, what you get is a flat line, nothing, zero. So what they do is in the microphone, they tip one of them upside down and send it down send each of those two signals, the standard one and the upside down one, each down one of these signal cables inside the XLR cable. At the other end, at the mixer, then one of those gets turned back up the right way. So what have you got? You've got a signal there. If you smash it together, you've just got two identical signals and it works fine. But any interference that's been added into the line hopefully is added into the two lines in much the same fashion, so it will be pretty identical. So when you turn it upside down and you put the signals back together, the interference that was introduced will actually be negated. Now this is very interesting because you have such low voltage equipment that that interference is a major drama, and suddenly a big part of it is negated just by this very simple, almost mechanical design. So these XLR cables are used everywhere for transporting low voltage signals, but also they're quite handy for higher voltages as well. So even if a lot of systems use them as speaker cables as well. Probably they're not so good as speaker cables because the internal cables may not be of such a big diameter. Speakers work much better when you put a serious diameter cable inside, serious diameter, which is talking about the copper inside the cable. So that about does it for cables. I have got some speaker cable here. So let's talk about speaker cable. Because the voltage is quite high in the speaker cable, then the main thing is to just get, and the main thing is to get this volume of sound out there. So speaker cables are quite often big, thick, heavy hunks of wire like that, just two separated wires, nothing very tech about it, and they might have a 6.5 millimeter. So in this case, you've only got two connectors. So you've got, it's just if you like, it's a mono plug. So there's a signal and a ground. In this case, they're just two opposing signals. On the other end, a slightly different fitting. Just depends on what your speakers take. Sometimes they take XLRs, in which case then you have to use an XLR cable. Maybe you'd keep some special big diameter XLR stuff around for just that purpose. So thanks for watching. That's it for the cable tutorial. I hope you've learnt a little bit. As we learn these things more and more, there are more tutorials. As we learn more and more about it, it starts to free us to be able to do a little bit more with our equipment, because we stop bumping into these dumb little problems that we seem to always get. I think we're going to talk about some video cables in the next exciting episode, especially sort of HDMI and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about how all that works. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, you can click on like or subscribe or do as you please. And see you next time. Bye.